So, what do you want? Now, I know that sounds a really simplistic question, but it's one that a lot of people have difficulty answering. Because if you don't know what you want, how will you know when you've got it? And this is something that all too often gets overlooked because it's assumed that we already know this. How many motivational posters tell you things like, go after the one thing that makes you truly happy, or never give up on your dreams? Well, this is fine if you've always wanted to open your own restaurant, or if you've always dreamed of having your own rock band, or some other really long-held ambition that you've always wanted to fulfill. But what if you don't know what you want from life? What if you have lots of different interests that are pulling you in different directions? In these cases, telling someone to seize the day and live their dreams just isn't all that helpful. What you need to do in these cases is prioritize and look for the things you can get from life that will make you happiest and tick the most boxes. Now, let's look at some of the ways that you can do that. Very often, what this comes down to is identifying the common themes in your dreams and objectives. Now, in other words, if you want to be 20 things, what do those 20 things have in common? So, if you want to be an actor and a rock star, what is it about both those things that makes them appealing? What does being a rock star have in common with being an actor? Well, the most likely answer is that both put you in the public eye and both are a kind of performance which can bring a certain amount of adoration. So, as long as you can tick all those boxes, you should be happy whatever you do. Another way to get to the bottom of what it is that you really want and to discover why you want it is to use the 5 whys technique. Here, you ask yourself the question why 5 times in a row in order to dig deeper and deeper into your motivations. So let's say you want to be a famous novelist like J.K. Rowling or Thomas Hardy. Why? Because you want to create something that you can be proud of. Why? Because you want to leave a lasting mark. Why? Because you respect and admire creative individuals who've done the same. Why? Because they can make a living by entertaining using only their imagination and their writing skills. Why does that appeal? Because you love to write and to be acknowledged for your creativity. Okay, now we're getting somewhere. Perhaps it's not being a novelist specifically that appeals to you, so much as being able to write and to get credit for your creativity. And this opens up a world of possibilities. You could be an article writer, or a screenwriter, or a newspaper columnist, or a blogger. The list just goes on and on. Another way to find out what it is you really want is to look at your role models and see what it is about them that you admire. Which parts of their lives would you like to emulate? What do they have in common? Another tip is to look back at what you wanted to be when you were younger. Now, sometimes this will have no bearing because we can change an awful lot in a few decades. But in other cases, you'll find that whatever it is that you wanted to be back then still has some kind of appeal for you. Now, back then, you probably dreamed of being something much more ambitious and less realistic because, let's face it, we do all get a bit more cynical as we get older. And sometimes when you look back at what you wanted to do when you were young, you think, what a silly idea. But, there might still be some sort of a nucleus of something that you could perhaps salvage from that. And does that same thing still excite you? Once again, think of what it is about that thing that appeals and how you could realistically achieve the same end. For example, if you couldn't make it as a basketball player, perhaps you've got what it takes to be a coach. You're still involved in basketball, just in a different way. So think about what you want and then brainstorm your goals. Write them down and place them somewhere that you can see them. Then work backwards from your goal to where you are now. And this is very important. It's a very important technique to start with the end and then work back to the beginning, because then you'll know exactly what you need to accomplish to get to the next stage. And you'll find it easier to stay motivated if you break your goals down into smaller goals that you can achieve easily. And once you've achieved one goal, you can move on to the next one until you've achieved your ultimate aim. Something that I personally have found very useful when trying to work through goals and trying to come up with ideas and brainstorming sessions and that sort of thing is to use mind mapping software. And the one that I like to use is called FreeMind, and it is actually a free piece of software that you can download. And I can just see here on the website, they've got some screenshots that show you exactly how it works and what it all looks like and how you can work through the various mind maps that you can use the software for. And you can find out more at freemind.sourceforge.net, and you can download the software for free. Avoiding negativity is very important if you want to be successful, because being in a negative atmosphere can simply drain all of the energy out of you. And especially being around negative people can be absolutely soul-destroying. Here in the UK, there's a comedian called Harry Enfield, and he does lots of different characters. And one of them is this guy who's incredibly negative and finds fault with everything and corrects everybody. And he has this sort of irritating little nasally voice, and he goes, "You don't want to do it like that," all the time. Whenever somebody does something, "Oh, you don't want to do it like that, you want to do it like this." And he does this over and over and over again. And I suppose we've all met people like this in our lives, and I'm sure Harry Enfield probably based him on a couple of people that he knew, perhaps, I don't know. But we've all met people like this, and they're just the sort of people that you have a strong urge to hit repeatedly with something heavy and blunt. And they probably go, "Oh, you don't want to hit me with a baseball bat. You want to use a bit of lead pipe. All right, mate, if that's what you want, that's what we'll do." But, it just can be really, really irritating and really soul-destroying, because they'll find something wrong or suggest an alternative with just about everything. So in this video, I'm going to give you 5 ways to avoid negative people, or more specifically, to avoid letting negative people drag you down into their pit of negativity. And way number 1 is to take responsibility. Stop being a victim of these negative people. Go from blaming, judging, and criticizing to assuming full responsibility for your own thoughts and feelings. When someone says, "You don't want to do it like that," well, actually, yes, I do, because if I didn't want to do it like that, I wouldn't be doing it, would I? So take a different approach to how you deal with their negativity, and don't respond in kind. Negativity feeds off itself. Way number 2 is to avoid complainers. Now, people who complain about everything will never enhance your life. They're not looking for solutions. They just want to do nothing and moan. In fact, if you offer a solution, they'll find something wrong with it. And if you point out an obvious solution, they won't thank you, because they actually enjoy being negative. So only deal with them if you absolutely have to. Way number 3 is to keep a positive outlook yourself. Like attracts like, and whether we like it or not, we attract into our lives people, events, and situations that mirror our internal state of mind. So, how do you feel on a regular basis? Are you feeling happy, excited, grateful, loving? Or are you feeling irritable, judgmental, negative, and frustrated? Keep those feelings in check. Way number 4 is don't overanalyze the situation. Negative people can sometimes behave irrationally, and you'll waste valuable time and energy if you try to make sense of all their actions. So do whatever you can to prevent yourself from becoming emotionally invested in their issues. Way number 5, let go of your own need to complain. Take responsibility for your own emotions and state of being. Don't go around complaining about how much other people's negativity is affecting you, because this will only create more negativity. Assume responsibility for your own thoughts and feelings and see what you can do to feel better, what you can do to change the current situation by changing your lenses, by changing your attitude, and by changing the way that you look at things. Finally, stop listening to that irrational voice in your own head that's constantly doing you down and telling you what you can't do. When you start taking a more positive attitude, you'll find that your life and mood will improve by the same proportions. When conditioning your mind for success, sometimes it's hard to break old habits and change everything at once. And that's where Kaizen and the law of attraction come in. Let's look at each of them in turn. Kaizen is Japanese for improvement. And when used in the business sense and applied to the workplace, Kaizen refers to activities that continuously improve all functions and involve all employees from the CEO to the assembly line workers. When used generally in your life, it can mean lots of little changes that add up to one very big change. It might mean breaking bad habits one step at a time, or achieving a main goal by achieving lots of little goals along the way. So let's say your goal is to quit smoking. Well, your first step will be to stop smoking cigarettes and start using patches and chewing nicotine gum. Then you gradually cut down the patches and finally you reduce the amount of gum. And each step along the way leads you closer to reaching your goal of quitting smoking and eliminating your addiction to nicotine. Another example would be learning to play a musical instrument. As you practice, you slowly get better and improve your performance. Now, Toyota, the car manufacturer and big Japanese conglomerate, have taken this to a whole new level. The Toyota production system is known for Kaizen, where all line personnel are expected to stop their moving production line in case of any abnormality and, along with their supervisor, suggest an improvement to resolve the abnormality which may initiate a Kaizen. And they actually do this in a way that's also known as the Schuhart cycle, Deming cycle, or PDCA. And you start with plan. So you plan what you're going to do, and you do it. Then you check it, and then you act. That's the PDCA. Now, in between do and check, there's also another cycle that you go through. You start with problem finding, display, clear, and acknowledge. And this whole thing is a continuous loop, or two intersecting continuous loops. So as soon as you've completed the last step, which is act, immediately you're starting to plan again. So you're planning the next step. So plan, do, check, problem find, display, clear, acknowledge, act, and then plan and on to the next step. And the whole thing is a continuous cycle over and over and over again. So it's a continuous improvement with every step of the way. Now consider the law of attraction. This states that like attracts like, and if you act in a certain way, your life will change to match. When applied to health, the law of attraction states that worry, fear, stress, or other negative thoughts can make people sick, while positive thoughts of wellness or love can keep people healthy and even cure illnesses. And this can be seen in scientific studies where the placebo effect takes place. Those who receive fake sugar pills tend to become healthier due to the mere fact that they think they're getting treatment when they aren't. Proponents also claim that an important part of maintaining health and curing illnesses is to be able to visualize yourself as being healthy. In finance, it's claimed that if someone consistently thinks prosperous thoughts, then irrespective of their actual situation, they will experience prosperity in the future because like attracts like. Conversely, if a person consistently thinks they are poor, then that will be their future experience. Law of attraction proponents claim that it affects our relationships because whatever we focus on, we experience more of. So if an individual focuses on another person's good qualities, then they experience more of those. Whereas if they focus on what they dislike about that person, those will be the characteristics of that person they experience. They also claim that if you can visualize that a certain person is being nice to you, then you'll be attracting experiences to match those thoughts. When it comes to ambitions and things you want out of life generally, it's claimed that when someone visualizes clearly and in detail what they want to achieve and focuses upon that image, they set in motion through the law of attraction a chain of events which eventually culminates in the materialization of that vision. So act confidently, dress well, look great, and people start taking you more seriously. You then start to be given more responsibility at work and your career improves. You make more money, enabling you to live a healthier lifestyle. This makes you more attractive to the opposite sex, and your life generally becomes better. When combining Kaizen and the law of attraction, it brings changes to all areas of your life and facilitates improvements across the board. In this video, I want to talk about how you can become more mindful, because becoming more mindful is a key way of reprogramming your brain to be more successful. Now, of course, the big question is, what is mindfulness? Well, essentially, mindfulness is a form of meditation that has been adopted by CBT. CBT, in turn, is cognitive behavioral therapy. And it's a psychotherapeutic approach used to treat conditions like anxiety, phobias, addictions, etc. And the fact that this is a form of meditation can put some people off. They think it's all new age and something hippies used to do in the 1960s when they weren't smoking dope, driving around in VW microbuses and calling everybody man. Others associate it with religion, like Buddhism, for example, and think that taking it up might compromise their own religious faith. And then there are people who aren't religious at all and don't want to be associated with it for that reason. In fact, nothing could be further from the truth. You can practice meditation whether you are a religious person or an atheist. All meditation really is a directed attempt to control your thoughts and the contents of your mind. And in so doing, you can gain some peace and quiet, or at least be able to better understand the contents of your own brain. So meditation essentially gives us a tool we can use, not only to calm our thoughts and escape the stresses of the day, but also to reflect on the contents of our mind in the interest of self-improvement. And, well, that's all it is, really. Often, meditation means completely silencing all thoughts. And many types of meditation, such as transcendental meditation, instruct you to think of absolutely nothing. Often, this is achieved by focusing on your breathing, or a mantra, or a physical object like a candle flame. And this can be difficult for beginners, though, as they constantly find their mind wandering. Well, the idea behind mindfulness meditation is not to try and empty your thoughts, but instead to simply step back from them and observe them like a detached third party. And this way you aren't letting your thoughts affect you and make you stressed out, but you also aren't going to struggle with not being allowed to think of anything. And using this technique will also allow you to become more aware of your own thoughts, and in so doing, you'll be able to edit any thoughts that are leading you into trouble. Now, this may be the long-term aim of mindfulness when used in CBT. In the short term, however, we're simply going to use it to remove ourselves from our thoughts and emotions and get some calm and recover, ready to tackle the day ahead. So let's look at some of the practical ways that you can use mindfulness in your daily life. In this case, mindfulness simply means being mindful of what you're focusing on and what you're thinking about at any given point. And this is useful because very often you'll find that your mind isn't perhaps where it should be. For example, if you're walking through beautiful countryside but you're thinking about your work, then as far as your body is concerned, you may as well be at work. In this case, mindfulness can be used simply to make yourself more aware of where you are and to focus on what's actually going on around you. This means feeling the breeze on your skin, looking at the beautiful flowers and smelling the fresh air. When you do all that, you'll benefit much more from the experience. You can then use mindfulness to direct your attention to all manner of other things. For example, your physical sensations. Quite often we aren't aware of just how we're sitting, how we're standing, or how we're feeling. So take a moment right now to reflect on this. How comfortable are you at the moment? Does any part of your body hurt? If you're sitting down, where's the most pressure on you? Can you feel your clothes against your body? A watch, maybe. How warm are you? Are you leaning more to one side or another? This kind of mindfulness can be useful if you want to try and fix your posture, but also if you want to improve your abilities in sports or just move more efficiently. Being mindful of the way you speak can also help you to speak more eloquently, to stop using derogatory words, to stop swearing, or to change the whole way that people perceive you. For example, if you want to sound more intelligent, you can simply try using bigger words or speaking a little more slowly. You can also use mindfulness to be happier in everyday life. Simply try to stop letting negative emotions affect you by identifying them as temporary and destructive. You can simply notice that you're getting angry and acknowledge that your thoughts will be tainted by that. With practice, this can make you a much calmer and much happier person. But what do you find when you try and do this? In all likelihood, you'll find that you forget. And this is just like the same way you forget to pick up a pint of milk when your spouse asks you to, and it's the same way you forget to take back a library book every once in a while. Most of the time we have no control over what we're focused on or paying attention to. We find ourselves forgetting things, getting into bad habits, or stressing when we should be enjoying ourselves. Practicing mindfulness, both as a form of meditation and during the day can help to improve your ability to control your thoughts and decide how you want to improve yourself and what you want to focus on. In this video, I want to talk you through how you can become more present and become more involved in things that are going around you and in everything that you do. Now, how can you do this? Well, one method is to start focusing on your body and on your senses a little more. The fact of the matter is that most of us are so in our own heads that we barely notice half of what's going on around us. We walk in a dream state worrying about work or about relationships, and we hardly take time to stop and smell the roses, either literally or metaphorically. So try this right now. Turn off any music that you're listening to and instead just start to notice the sounds around you. I mean, really, really listen. What can you hear? Well, chances are if there's a road somewhere near you, you're going to hear traffic noise. If you're listening to this at home or watching this at home, chances are you're going to hear noises from next door or perhaps from another room. You might hear people talking, music playing, somebody's TV set on, that sort of thing. All sort of subtle things in the background. If you're watching this at work, then you might hear other conversations going on in the room, other people talking, or in adjacent offices, or perhaps you're doing this in somewhere that manufactures stuff and you can hear the machines working. You can probably hear telephones ringing, or perhaps a photocopier whirring away if you're in an office, that sort of thing. You might even hear some sounds from the outside, like a road or a police car or an ambulance going by. That's the sort of thing that you might hear in the distance. And if you're outside, then you're going to hear all sorts of noises. You're going to hear birds singing. You might hear a dog barking. You might hear snippets of people's conversation as they're walking by. All sorts of different things that you're going to hear, which probably you tune out if you're thinking about something else as you're going through your life, through your daily routine. And likewise, you can probably smell a whole load of things that you hadn't noticed. And if you take the moment to feel your own body, then you can probably notice the sensation of the seat pushing into your legs and into your buttocks. Maybe you can feel the blood filling your face and making you feel hot. Or perhaps there's a wind blowing against you. Is it hot or cold? What direction is it coming from? Listen to the sounds of your own breathing too, and feel your abdomen expand and shrink as you do. And once you do this, you'll find that you stop worrying about what's going on around you and start to appreciate your environment a little more. There's so much that we normally miss. You can try doing this on walks too. Go for a walk with no music, no phone, and nothing else, and try just being present and noticing the world around you. It's calming and invigorating at the same time. Practicing being more present in conversation is important because eventually it'll become something that you can just engage in at will. Now you can choose when you want to start listening better to people and digest what they're really saying. You can listen to them rather than the monologue going on in your head. And again, you can leave your other concerns behind. Try focusing on the sensations of your body more the next time that you're being intimate with a sexual partner. You'll find that you instinctively know what to do next, and you'll start to be much more passionate and responsive. You'll become a better lover simply by getting out of your own head, and you'll feel it far more forcefully. This is true for everything else as well. Next time you have a bath or go for a swim, Take a moment to really appreciate the warmth and the softness of the water against your skin. Next time you eat your breakfast on a weekend morning, remind yourself how much you enjoy that food and how happy you are not to be going to work that particular morning. And this is what so many of us don't do. So many of us walk around in a dream state worrying about other things. We actually miss what's going on around us. And being stressed and having no control over your mind is doubly problematic, because not only does it make us unhappy, but it also distracts us from the things that are going on all around us all the time that could be making us happier. And what it does for our relationships is also fantastic. Right now, being distracted could well be destroying your relationships with family and friends.